Hello, everyone. I hope you are doing well. We are going to be talking about populations, so we're just going to be retracking from what we were talking about before spring break, do a little refresher. Then we're going to talk about predator prey relationships and why these are so important. Now, how these things all work together. So, we just did our virtual field trip through Yellowstone National Park. We're going to talk about predator prey relationships today, and then that will lead us into talking about the wolves of Yellowstone and why the wolf species is a key species in Yellowstone and why they're important and what happens if they're not there or they are there. So, first, I just want to take you on a little journey through Hayden Valley. It's a beautiful little area in Yellowstone. Um, Sitting in kind of a ravine next to the Yellowstone River, but also close to the Yellowstone Lake. Um, Yellowstone is such a interesting place because it's so expansive and it has a lot of different environments. Now, first, this is the Grand Prismatic Lake. It's beautiful. These colors, archaea, trillions of archaea all living together. And they make these amazing like rust and blues, and you just want to go swim in it, but you can't because it's boiling water and it's super hot. It's the third largest hot spring in the world. This is a little path you could walk on, situated by mountains. There's mountains all around. Oh, no, I don't want that. Okay, anyway, glitching. Let's go to Hayden Valley, Wyoming. Now, Yellowstone's so interesting because, yeah, it just spreads several different states. Now, a lot of people like to drive through the Hayden Valley because on either side, wildlife. I mean, not in this picture, but you just have these great open areas, lush green grass, and you can see a variety of things. You could see wolves, you could see bears, you could see bison, all of these animals. What are those things called? Groundhogs. There you go. Prairie dogs. Things that you would see out here. All right, so I just want to show you guys that because this is probably a type of area that we would be focusing on in Yellowstone. All right, now switching over, we're going to do our reading and I'm going to be doing some explaining. All of this is going to help with your exit ticket about predator prey relationships. So make sure you're paying extra close attention. All right, wildlife populations. Populations are all the members of a species that live in one area. You are part of the human population for your hometown. A freshwater pond has multiple populations, including a population of mallard ducks and a population of cattail plants growing on the edge. We're doing a census right now to determine the population of the United States, which helps us determine world populations later on. So, we're always looking to know how many of us there are. Now, all the populations that live and interact with each other in one area make up the community of that area. So we're taking all the individual populations of different species and we're saying, okay, we are a community. Like, we're a community with our dogs and cats and fish out in the ponds. Really, we couldn't say that because they're aquatic ecosystem or terrestrial. But you guys get the picture. All these populations together make up our community. So the populations and community are affected by many non-living factors in the area, such as the water of the pond, the amount of sunlight, and the different nutrients of the soil, and even the quality of the air. Another example in an aquatic ecosystem, if you fertilize your yard and you've got a pond in your backyard, and that fertilizer runs into your pond, it can actually hurt the ecosystem of that pond because it will help the plants grow and you'll have an overgrowth of aquatic plants in the pond. And then those aquatic plants are adding too much oxygen. It basically suffocates fish and other wildlife because they are getting too much oxygen. which is a thing. Um, so all of these living, which are biotic factors, and non-living, which are abiotic. A means not, biotic means living. Components form an ecosystem of freshwater pond. Form the ecosystem of freshwater pond. So the interactions of an ecosystem are often described as webs that show how the species are interrelated. An example of a generic food web in an ecosystem is shown below. All the species connect in multiple interactions and are dependent on one another. So you've got your producers down here, which is the plants. The plants are producing, and then you have your primary consumers above. Okay, they're the first ones. They are the herbivores for the most part, and you've got so rabbits, squirrels, mice, seed-eating birds, and herbivorous insects. Um, then you've got your secondary consumers, and then you go up to tertiary, or well, primary, secondary. I need a three. Okay, tertiary, yes. So we've got our tertiary, and you can go up to quaternary. Sometimes you'll have, it depends on how you're looking at that web to determine what level you're looking at. Because right here we've got a primary consumer, and then the hawks and owls in this way would be a secondary consumer. But if you look over here, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So it'd be quaternary. It's at the very top, it's the fourth level. It just depends on which way and which chain you're looking at within the web. So this is a chain, and this is the whole web. Okay, so anyway, you're seeing how the transfer of energy happens. That's what our arrows are representing here. But then if we take out a link, so if we take out rabbits here, maybe something happened to the rabbit population that year. The fox are going to be more heavily reliant on everything else they eat. So we have a balance that's, our balance is off. And then hawks and owls are the same way. They're going to be more reliant, which could drive down the other populations of organisms. So our squirrel, our mice, our seed eating birds, they could all be heavily affected by this, or snakes. And their populations could go down because they are being eaten. All right. So for the ecosystem to be healthy, every part of that ecosystem must be healthy too. Likewise, to protect an ecosystem, every part from soil to water to prey, animals to predators must be protected. If one piece of the web is damaged, everything it interacts with will be affected, sorry. It is this interrelatedness that explains why losing one species can lead to the loss of other species. When ecosystems become unbalanced, whole populations of animals are more susceptible to disease or other disturbances. The health of ecosystems is a delicate balance of plant, animal, environment, and human interaction. Human activities are one of the biggest influences on the ecosystem and the populations in them. The graph below shows the decline of the American woodcock populations in every state except Illinois. Woodcocks live in forest ecosystems, and human population growth has caused a decrease in forest size as more land is developed for human homes, agriculture, and industry. The growing human population has caused many wildlife populations, like woodcock populations, to decrease in size. So down here you have the states, the years. So 1970 is the red, 2000s are the white, and then over to the left, you are going to have population size, or the abundance of these birds within each state. So as you can see, there's definitely a change here. You can see, except for Illinois, where they had a lower population in the 1970s, and now their population has grown. But every other state, you can see that human interaction, human activity, and the building and the loss of habitat for these birds has caused a decrease in all these areas. Okay, um, so that just shows how human interaction can affect an ecosystem. Now we're going to pop on over to adaptations and predator-prey relationships. So different species have different roles or niches in the ecosystem so that they do not compete for the same resources. Many species have niches where they serve as food for other species. These are prey animals. Prey animals are species that are food for other animals known as predators. Many predators may even be prey for larger predators. Predator species that are not prey for any other species are known as top predator or apex. The relationship between predator and prey animals make up the delicate balance that is part of an ecosystem. Changes in one population will result in changes in another. A well-studied predator-prey relationship is that of the snowy owl and the lemmings, a type of rodent, that are prey. Lemmings populations go through cycles of growth and decline. When lemming populations become too large, they consume all of the moss that is their food. Without the moss, the lemmings starve and the population crashes. So these little mice, they eat moss, and if they are not being hunted and they're just able to just keep reproducing at a great speed, then they eat all their food and then they starve. So this cycle repeats every 3 to 4 years. The changes in the lemming population affect the predators that rely on them for food. Snowy owls will only reproduce if lemming populations are large enough for the owls to have enough food to feed both themselves and their chicks. The Grappolo shows that snowy owls on one island in Canada only nested in years with large numbers of lemmings. So if the mice are starving, they don't have food. Um, they are dying off. The owls know this. They are not getting. They know this because they are not catching enough food to sustain chicks. So that year, the owls are not going to nest, and they will just nest in the years where the lemming population has gone from low, the moss has grown back, then the lemmings are able to reproduce, and their population goes back up. All right. So you can see this on the graph here. Lemming abundance is the line. Snowy owl nests are the bar. You have the number of nests and the years. So you can see every 3 to 4 years, you're having a decline in lemming populations, a decline in the number of nests, and then we have a huge lemming population. The nests the next year, with this in mind, thinking that the lemmings are going to be a high again, we have a ton of nests that happen. And then, whoa, the lemming population just flatlined because there were so many this year. It went so far down. And then the next year, you're not going to have as many nests from the owls because they're like, whoa, we didn't have any food. And I'm sure this year, a lot of chicks probably died. And that's just what happens, when you don't have food and the owls probably assumed, oh well, we had good population sizes the year before, and then laid a nest or laid eggs in the nest, and there were no food sources for them. All right, so prey animals need predators to help keep their population healthy too. In Illinois, all of the top predators, such as the gray wolf, cougar, and the American black bear, are extinct. So just in that state, though. Without these predators, the white-tailed deer population has grown so large that there is not enough food for all the deer. The growing human population has made this problem worse by decreasing the amount of natural habitat for the deer. The Illinois state government allows human hunting of deer to help limit the population size and prevent death by starvation. So, you can hunt more deer in Illinois because of this. They're trying to eliminate this problem and, add another predator into this food web, which would be the humans. Look at this herd of deer. That's just crazy. You never see that many deer together. But that just shows there's no predators. All right, guys. So with the exit ticket, um, you've just got a couple questions and a couple short answers about predator-prey relationships and uh, wildlife populations in general. This will help us be ready to talk about the wolves of Yellowstone tomorrow. All right, email me with any questions. Thanks, guys.